Welcome to the Opinionated Benchwarmers Podcast, episode 176. Your Opinionated Benchwarmers are back to do what we do best. That's discuss sports. Obviously, the voice you're hearing right now is Rob. I got Ramon in here. And obviously, if you're watching this, our third partner in crime is not here. He's feeling a little under the weather, so we wishing him all the best and a speedy recovery and just letting him know we're going to hold it down for him. Ramon, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good, man. I just was telling you about battling that traffic on the way home, so a little bit of frustration there, but got a little bit breaking news, man. We might be getting a surprise guest coming on. I'm just seeing it and looking at the phone, and somebody saying they might be hopping on, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
He can't
but
stay away, huh?
can't stay away, can't stay away. But man, it's just been, kind of one of those days, just a long day. But all in all, get to come and kind of do what we really like to do with our pastime, and that's to talk sports and deliver something to our listeners. So once again, man, I'm not gonna hold it. I know we got a lot to get to. Let's go in and hop in, man.
Yeah, man. Facts, man. I mean, on my end, bro, just a lot of rain in the DMV all week. So, you look out the window while you're working. Rain is not as fun. You just want to stretch out, relax, but you can't do that. But I can't complain, man. 5 leagues, 4-1 this past weekend. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
We coming off of a good weekend of football, which we'll get into in a moment. Obviously, for first time listeners, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the podcast. Obviously, Opinionated Benchwarmers, we can be found wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And also on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed to our channel on YouTube and hit the bell. Why don't you? That's how you get notifications of when you're getting when we drop content. So you definitely want to lock in with us. But Ramon, let's start here with some solemn news as LSU fans. Obviously, where we like to start as former LSU graduates for first-time listeners, and just understanding. I mean, just very solemn news. All-American Harold Perkins, linebacker star, junior, went down with an ACL injury, which we learned on Sunday. He'll be out for the remainder of the year. I want to preface this by saying, obviously, nothing we're going to discuss is bigger than him becoming recovered and him being better than he was before this injury. But obviously, as fans, we have some concerns about what this LSU defense will look like going forward.
yeah, honestly, like you said, man, you covered it, from a standpoint of tough news for Perk. You never want to see one of your guys go down like that and have this type of recovery, especially in what was considered to be his money year, with him likely heading on to the NFL draft. And now we'll see how that process will go. But as you mentioned from the LSU front, what it does for you is that although Perkins wasn't having what we would look at as the big time playmaking season where he's got 5 sacks already or 6 sacks and a couple forced fumbles or things of that sort. His presence means something out there. Especially when you have a defense that has obviously improved from last year, but is still finding its way along in certain aspects. And we know that Blake Baker is going to continue to help it take steps forward. But what Perkins allowed you to do is that he had so much versatility. He's a guy that can rush the passer. He's a guy that, of course, can play his traditional linebacker role, but he was also one that, if you needed to put him in that star position, if you need to have looks where almost it could still simulate nickel type looks with him in there, he had that type of ability. And so anytime you lose an athlete like that on the field, it's difficult to replace that. I think you're going to see them go from, they had a few more three linebacker looks recently with him, with Weeks, and also
Am I,
can't
bro?
uh
Am I?
can't no he's on the D line. I'm thinking of, I don't know why I can't remember number 18 right now for the life of me. Greg Penn,
Great pen, yeah,
Greg Penn. With those three guys, but what you're going to see a little bit more often now is, of course, that additional safety being brought in and them having those three safety looks, and running that, having more DBs on the field. But you can't replace a guy like that, even when he's not having, what would be the highlight reel type of season.
Well, you said it. I mean, it's an opportunity for guys to step up. LSU, this is the most solemn I've been with a team sitting at 3-1. But obviously, we have a lot of work to do. Again, another team that has found themselves struggling in the first half versus a inferior opponent. Let's face it, UCLA has not been a good college football team this year, and we struggled in the first half. Now it's a tale of two tales. Obviously, the second half we came in and dominated and handled business and did what we had to do. But obviously, it's a lot of work to be done. I think Ramon, what I've noticed, and we'll move on to NFL in a little bit as my brother jump on. Welcome back, bro. We can't keep you away. You see how much loves the listeners. He couldn't stay away, but um, obviously it's a good time for LSU to understand what do these young players got, and you're seeing it now with Spears in the secondary getting more reps. And I think that this team, and I think Coach Kelly is probably transitioning his coaching staff. It's like, let's see what these young recruits got. We know that their ceiling is higher than what we already have. And I think you'll see that with the linebackers as well. It's another opportunity for a young guy to look. But I mean, this defense is atrocious. I think that our secondary, I mean, if you believe in advanced metrics, our secondary is last in probably every category that there is in the country. And it's just a testament of what we're going through defensively wise, but we can't cover anybody. And I think you're seeing that, and it's been a kryptonite for us. But I mean, shout out to Perk, like you said, wishing him a speedy recovery. Again, as you mentioned, his abilities, and we'll see what happens, Ramon. We got one more game, and then we got a bye, and then we got the Rebels coming into town. So this is our last tune up game, and we better get it together because
We got
the
a lot
Rebels
of
might
tuning to
embarrass
do,
us.
man. We got a
Yeah,
lot of tuning to
a lot,
do.
a lot of tuning up to do. But Los, man, shout out to you, man. What's up? How you feeling, bro?
Good, man. Good. Glad I was able to hop on time, man. I'm just ready to rock it. I know this is my beginning, so let's do it, brothers.
Man, he made a liar out of me, man. I was shouting out saying, man, my brother out. I'm hoping that he feels better, but I'm glad to see you doing well, man, and you shook back, man. But yeah, as we transition, obviously, we had a big week of football. We had the battle of the Heisman winners last night, Monday Night Football, as we record on a Tuesday night. Excellent game. Obviously, just to say a nugget I ran across since 1940, the first game with no punts and no turnovers. I mean, it was electric. Obviously, Jaden with the record QBR for for it. I don't think he missed like what 2, 3 passes. I don't have the stats in front of me, but an amazing
Yeah,
performance by
but only
both
two.
guys. Two. So
Yeah.
an amazing performance, amazing game. Guys, LSU's breeding some talent.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, man, I mean, that matchup is huge, right? Especially as a rookie, you coming in there and winning that matchup I mean, and especially with what was talked about before the game with Britt, the cornerback, talking about it's a college offense, not paying respect to really Jaden and what he's done in his resume in college, which I know sometimes it doesn't transfer, but at the same time, he was not very respectful. So they keep it really simple for him. They don't throw it down the field. And the first big play that he had of the game was down the field on Britt. So I thought that was huge. And he answered. He answered the bell and he played well. He played lights out. He played like a veteran. I'm very, very pleased with what I see from Jaden Daniels, man, and in that franchise. I would like to see him take less hits, but I know that's in his DNA. I would like to see him take less hits. I don't want his career to end up anything like RG3, where RG3 kind of took the league by storm a little bit too, but he took too many hits, man. I would like to see him take less hits, but other than that, when you have two incompletions, you have more touchdowns to incompletions, then you're playing a good game.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was a complete game, and looking at Jaden, his ability to even spread it around, I think it went to 8 different receivers basically, as far as from receptions, completions, and things of that sort. So it wasn't like he just honed in on one target. We know that Scary Terry is his number one guy over there right now, but he made sure that he spread it around as well too, and it was just a complete game. Stepped up obviously in big moments, delivered big time throws at crucial points within the game. And so a lot on that end, but I mean, I think that you have to look on the flip side of things as well. And you have to say that this has been a disappointing start to the season for the Bengals. This is a team that was looked at, going into each year kind of as a contender since, Joe and Jamar have been on the scene with T. Higgins and the guys of that sort. And you look at a team starting off 0-3. They were supposed to come into the year having one of the easiest schedules looked at in the league, and people felt that okay, this is the year that they can make a run. And it's not to say that the nail is in the coffin just yet on this team, but that 0-3 start does not look good. Defense doesn't look good right now. Now they did play decently, in week 2. But I don't know. It's getting a little bit closer. I'm not gonna say press the panic button just yet, because like I said, that schedule still is relatively easy over the course of the season. But I think you have to start considering, is this a team that truly can contend at this point?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just to piggyback off the Commanders, obviously I live out in the DMV, man. I want to let you guys know that the spirit out here is very high. They loving Jaden out here, and I'm loving to be able to tell them that they got a dog. And he obviously we raised him right and down there in Louisiana, even though he's a Cali boy, but I like to think Louisiana raised him a little bit as well. But on the flip side, like you said, 0-3, the Bengals right now, nobody expected them to finish that at this point in the season. Many looked at this Commanders game as a tune-up game, as a shake-back game, and Commanders came through with the dub. But what I want to say is that they had a lot of distractions in the offseason. When you think about T. Higgins, when you think about Jamar, which were contract negotiations, which we talked about on another pod, with Jamar probably was a little premature. But obviously he wants to get paid. They had a lot of distractions, and I think that it's I mean, I don't think that Joe Burrow could have played any better than he played last night. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns. I think his QBR was over 100 as well. I mean, what else can he do? He threw for what, 373 yards, something like that. But
324, but
324. I mean, come on, man. Like how Jamar, what he had like what 6, 7 catches, 100, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you can't play much better than that. The stars showed up, but it's the defense, and until they get that fixed, they're not going They're not going very far. But as we recap week 3, there's a couple other underperforming teams. The Cowboys again, which I anticipated, got ran all over by the Ravens. Derrick Henry with over 150 yards rushing. I mean, the Saints, my Saints, I don't want to talk about them this week because I'm just upset about this past
wait,
week.
wait. Oh, so now you don't want to talk.
But I
Last
would
podcast was all Saints podcast, and now this week you don't want to talk about them.
look.
Amazing. I
We
love these weeks, though. I ain't gonna lie, I love these weeks.
we
I'm
talk
okay
about
with it.
we talk about the Cowboys right now. I never understood the McCarthy coaching decision. I think it lies with coaching. The fact that they can't get that defense ready to play week in and week out. Michael Parsons can't do it on his own. And I think what makes him effective is a good defense around him, and that's not happening. Uh, is this going to continue? I mean, this is a slippery slope. If you look at their schedule, it doesn't get any easier. I mean, where do you think this ends?
I don't know, man, but looking at Dak Prescott after the game, he was like, "Y'all can jump off the bandwagon if y'all want to. Go ahead, jump out." He was talking a little confident, but when you look at that team as a whole, it's just way too talented. Now, I don't agree what they did in the offseason around the running back position. I feel like they should have invested in that position more. I know it was talk about actually Derrick Henry going there, but Derrick Henry came out and said the Cowboys never even reached out to him. And so this game was more so like, okay, I'm gonna show you what y'all could have had because it sounded like Derrick Henry was more than okay with going over there to Dallas and playing. But, the Cowboys never reached out, whether they settled for a 50-year-old Ezekiel Elliott, a Rico Dotto guy that's kind of been just a backup all his whole career right now. I know they got Dalvin Cook on the practice squad right now. So that you look at that running back position and you look at their running game, you can see why this team is struggling. Outside of a CD Lamb, you really got Brandon Cooks, you have some weapons, you got Ferguson, but again, you can't do much if you don't have a running game to really set you up for that passing game. And that's what they're missing this year. And I really feel like that's hurting them big time this year, especially on that defense. And you got too much talent. DeMarcus Lawrence, like you mentioned, Michael Parsons. And we talk about Diggs, Trevon Diggs, as the corner, you just have too much talent on that defense end. You got too much talent on that team to really right now squander and just really drop games like this game after game.
Yeah, and when you talk about game after game, kind of looking at their schedule and looking at probably the next 6 weeks or so, I would only say that maybe they're favored in one of those games, maybe 2 at the max that they'll
They
be
got the
favored in.
Giants coming up this week, and then
Yep.
it's a
It's
gauntlet. You got
it's
the
very
Steelers 3-0, Lions, 49ers, Falcons, no slouch. You got the
yep.
Eagles, the Texans, and then you got the Commanders again. So
Yep.
I mean, they like our LSU Tigers. They better get it together this week because they don't get any easy after
No,
this.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
But anyway, I mean, when you look at other 0-3 teams, I mean, when you look at 0-3 teams, but you look at 3-0 teams, I mean, the Vikings was one of our pretenders from a previous episode, and they just beat the Texans pretty easily, I would say. Sam Darnold is looking like a all-pro quarterback, probably one of the best I've ever seen him play over his career. I mean, Minnesota,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, like and looking at Sam Darnold, to me, that's been kind of the biggest key. We went into this season, what do they look like in the era post Kirk Cousins? And so, we thought, okay, JJ McCarthy may end up being the guy coming out of Michigan. Obviously, he goes down, and it's like, okay, you got the journeyman and Sam Darnold. And I think that it's honestly like Sam Darnold has kind of found his like Geno Smith type of year where, Geno was down for so many years and didn't look like he was going to fit in the league. And then out of nowhere, he just found the right situation for him. He kept his head down, kept working. And that's kind of what it looks like for Sam Darnold right now. And the thing about it, ultimately, when you really think about that team, you haven't even seen that offense fully function because Addison has been out. They're going to get Hawkinson later in the season. So right now, he's been doing it with not even his full array of weapons that he's going to get. So it's very interesting. And I'm gonna be real, I didn't believe in it just yet until I saw this game this past weekend. And that's starting to make me a little bit more of a believer. I'm not ready to say Super Bowl or nothing like that yet, but it made me believe a little bit more in the legitimacy of the team.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, what we talked about with Bryce Young. How much does it matter to have a good system around you, good players around you, right? Although Andy Dalton did play well, I'm still holding out judgment on that. But again, it speaks to having confidence in the player. Sam Darnold, and we look at it, right? Then I saw something that came out that Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow. So we really write him as a bridge quarterback, but this guy can really be probably your future. You look at the Jets, they've never really had a great situation for a quarterback. Then, he went to, I believe, the 49ers after that. He was really just dubbed the backup there. This guy really never really had a chance to be in a good environment where a system that fits him. He's a former first round, I believe, number one overall pick, if I'm correct.
He
Number
was,
one
I
or
think,
number
top four in that draft because I think that's the
Okay.
draft that Baker went number one.
Okay. So he, a top five pick. So again, the talent is there. So again, I'm happy. I love these type of stories. I love when the guys like this show like, hey, these coaches believe in me and they show up and they play well and he's playing well. Right now, he has to be one of those. I don't even know if it's an award for this, not even a comeback, because I mean he never really came back from anywhere. So I don't even know. But right now he has to be leading in something. I know he's leading the league in touchdowns. So
And call it a breakout star.
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it. I mean, it doesn't hurt when you got one of the best receivers in the game on your side, and Jefferson is chosen to be a phenomenal asset for Darnold. But I mean, yeah, I mean, when you beat the 49ers, I don't care if they don't have Kittle and they didn't have Debo. I mean, you beating who we considered a Super Bowl contender, and then you come back and blow
the
out the
Texans.
Texans, who are uh, they're a formidable contender as well, who are favorites to maybe run the table. So two impressive wins.
Yeah.
I'm impressed as
And
well.
they actually beat him when they did have Kittle.
Oh,
Kittle
they had
still
Kittle,
played.
no
Kittle played
Debo.
in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Um,
Trent.
so let's touch on the other surprising 3-0 team, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I remember on a couple of episodes back, Ramon was mentioning that they are pretenders. So now is the time for you to, talk your piece here.
Uh, hey, well, ultimately as well, they still were. They end up beating a team that was also mentioned as another pretender for us in the Chargers, and obviously Herbert went down. But what I will say is, I, am becoming to be a little bit more impressed by the Steelers. I think that they have an interesting dynamic and an interesting decision that they're gonna have to make when Russell Wilson gets healthy. What are you doing? Are you going still with your guy in Justin Fields that's been steering the ship to a 3-0 record so far? Has been a guy that has played under control, played within the flow of the offense, hasn't tried to force too many things, and has been very solid for them. Who really should be also the future of your franchise, do you stick with that guy or do you go back to Russell Wilson, who was supposed to be the guy heading into the season?
I think when you look at it, I think you have to stay with Justin Fields, right? If you look at this guy as your future, as potentially your future, this guy started off again 3-0. And I know they're not the most exciting offense. I hate watching the Steelers play. I hate their games. Nothing about the Steelers is exciting, but they win football games. And so when you look at that aspect and you got the veteran sitting behind them, you got this guy that's already led you to 3-0. I think you don't consider that unless the Steelers completely fall on their face. If they just go on like a 5-game losing streak and go 3-5 or something wild like that, then you consider that switch of saving your season at that point. But right now, I say if he keeps you over 500, you got to stick with the young guy, keep the confidence in him, and hope that he is your future and that he can keep that position.
And even then, I mean, Russ only signed for $1.2 million this offseason, which we know, interesting enough, the Broncos has actually got hung for the rest of his salary. So really, you're not committed to Russ at all. You're not invested in Russ at all. So it's like Lo say, why not ride the hot hand and see where it takes you? I think that Justin Fields hasn't really made that many mistakes, and I think he's playing pretty damn good. And I think that in that offense, it's easy to play good because they're running all the time. They're running most majority of the time.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting too. I know maybe jumping the gun a little bit from a fantasy standpoint, but seeing the split in that backfield as well too. I thought that Jalen Warren was going to be somebody that was featured a little bit more than what he's been featured, but they really have kind of let Najee, really be the guy over there. So it's been kind of interesting to see that breakdown because I thought you might be more at a 55-45 or closer to that type of split, but it really hasn't been that split in the backfield.
Well, we know one thing about Arthur Smith. He loves to run the ball. He don't care I don't care what kind of talent you have on wide receiver. He's going to run the ball, and you have to have the bodies to do that. But, with Jalen banged up, I mean, that's even more carries for Najee if Jalen not able to roll this weekend. So that's something I have my eye on as a Najee owner in my league. So another 3-0 team, which is shocking to me, is the Seahawks. Geno Smith is playing like a top 10 quarterback in this football league, and it's not being talked about enough. He's running this offense pretty well. The Seahawks are rolling. They're flying under the radar right now. But that's another team, another 3-0 team I'm very impressed with.
Yeah, I would say for sure you lose your starting running back and you got Charbonnet step in and you don't miss a beat, and then that defense is playing well. I think that, the new head coach over there, McDonald, I think he's doing a really good job with them over there. The offense is clicking. Again, I'm a hold judgment because again, it's just 3 games, but I'll say through 3 games they look good.
Yeah, and that's the key point for me. I think that they are a solid team. I'm just not totally ready just yet to crown them. I think that this weekend, I think it's actually the Monday night game that they're going to be playing the Detroit Lions, and I think that that's when we're really going to see something because I think until this point they played with the Broncos, they played the Tua list and Skyler list. The Miami Dolphins, and then also too they've played the New England Patriots too. So it hasn't really been a gauntlet that they faced thus far, but I do see what they can be and what the potential is there. I just want to see this Monday night game to see when they face to me some real legit competition, what it looks like.
Well, I think that will cover all of the teams. I mean, the Chiefs being 3-0 shouldn't surprise anyone. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, other than Josh Allen making his play for MVP so far this year. So, I mean, those are the few remain. I think that what interests me most going forward is how these middle of the pack teams define themselves. Like the Jets, 2-1 right now. Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good. Baltimore Ravens are climbing themselves out of a hole. And they're 1-2 right now, but you got to expect they'll be there toward the end. But I don't know, man. I think that this has been an interesting, weird year because I think the quarterback play has been kind of lackluster so far this year. You had your first 300-yard performance, prior to Joe Burrow, obviously, but Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was the first 300-yard, three touchdown performance so far this year. The Panthers, he revived Deontay Johnson's fantasy value, which is to my delight. He's revived that entire offense.
Chuba Hubbard
So,
as well.
so gentlemen, do we have to backtrack what we said on our other episodes about the infrastructure there and finally just admit that Bryce Young may not be ready yet for this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that are going on. I wouldn't backtrack yet because again, it was the Raiders too. I don't have them in the playoffs either. So I know he did play well. He kept that offense on schedule. They weren't behind the chains, and that's one positive thing. And like you said, the 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, you can't take that away from him. But again, I'm gonna hold judgment on that because again, or when I say we, the NFL, they have this path now where they put quarterbacks in, they want to put them in the fire right away. You know, they're not doing the Jordan Love plan. They're not doing the Aaron Rodgers plan where they having these guys sit. Every quarterback is not meant to jump in and play right away. So I think it may be even good for him to sit back and kind of watch how things supposed to run and watch a veteran do this. I still think Andy Dalton's going to be Andy Dalton. Eventually, he's going to come back down to earth when he actually plays a better team. But again, I still think that they still fumbled the situation with him. They still maybe shouldn't have played him right away. He was too talented. We saw what he did with talent around him at Alabama. And I still think that I don't know if you can go back to him now as good as Andy Dalton looked. I think just a fresh start for him will be great.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, there's a little bit of both on the sides here. I think that the thing about it ultimately it's hard to sit a guy that you trade for that amount of capital and then you take it the number one pick. I think it's hard to sit that guy. I do still think as well too, and this is not to layer on with Bryce, but I do think that if CJ were in that position last year, I think that CJ Stroud would have performed better than what we've seen Bryce Young perform. So I think there's a little bit of truth on both ends. I think that it hasn't been the ideal situation, and I'm not ready to just say, oh my gosh, like you said, like Andy Dalton has just unlocked the floodgates. But I think that there is some credence to looking at the first 2 weeks and looking how bad they looked and looking at pretty much it, you looking and feeling that there was nothing from a supporting cast and no weapons really there to seeing kind of in this week seeing these various guys be unlocked. You know, you talked about Deontay Johnson. We talked about Chuba Hubbard really being unlocked. They had a little bit of showing from Xavier Leggett, and then even before Adam Thielen went down, you saw a little bit of an Adam Thielen sighting as well too. So I think it's a little bit of both. You know, Bryce isn't totally ready, and maybe this time of sitting is going to really help him out. But I still do think that ultimately, you know, he still wasn't the guy that they should have taken at that slot.
Yeah, I mean, face it, two things can't be true. Like you guys said, I agree with everything y'all said. I think the infrastructure was sad. I think his confidence was shot. And I also think that Bryce is not playing that well. And then I don't think if you take a guy number one pick, you got to be right. They got to make themselves right. But that made the right decision to sit him because they say whatever is left of his confidence that he could have. But as promised, we will get to waivers. Obviously, if you want to catch the waivers earlier, obviously, if you're listening to us for the first time, I can't even speak. We definitely drop at midnight. So if you want to check that out at midnight before your waivers drop, typically it drops at like 3 a.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. 2 a.m. Central time. But guys, who you liking on the waiver wire right now? What could get you some help? We got some tight ends that are banged up. We got some running backs banged up. We got a quarterbacks that are banged up. Who you guys liking out there?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'll just say I like Braylon Allen from the New York Jets. I think Braylon Allen has shocked a lot of people. The youngest running back in the NFL right now, or youngest player, I'm sorry, in the NFL right now at 20 years old, has carved out a role in that Jets offense. And, he has some flex appeal for your team. But if anything ever to happen to Brees Hall, you're looking at a bona fide RB1 on your team. He's gotten carries. They're putting them both on the field at the same time. He's a nice stash player, or, if you're looking at the schedule when you have a Braylon Allen out there, and you feel like the Jets are going to dominate the team, and then they may have chances to get up on this team, and where they're trying to reserve Brees Hall for the long haul, you can see him getting 8 to 10 carries that game, and even some catches out the backfield. So again, I like Braylon Allen. I think he's a great pickup at this time if he's sitting out there. A lot of people won't look at him because he is the quote unquote, the backup, but again, he's working his role in that offense. It's looking like more of a 35-65% split.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think that he has weekly value, honestly, within fantasy at this point. And like you said, the upside is crazy if anything were to happen to Brees. One guy I would add as well, too, if he's still sitting out there for you is Bucky Irvin. I think that in that Tampa Bay backfield right now, he looks like the better, more explosive runner than Rachaad White at this point. Rachaad White still offers, what he does from a passing game standpoint. But just sheer rushing, volume statistics and things of that sort, I think you're going to be able to see over the next coming weeks that Bucky Irvin is going to occupy a bigger role within that backfield. If you even just look at the numbers right now, so far through 3 weeks, Bucky Irvin has had 25 carries for 154 yards, comparing that to 31 carries for just 66 yards for Rachaad White. So he's definitely seeming like a guy that you can target if he's still sitting out there.
Yeah, what
I just
about
want to
Joe?
say, no, I was going to say, before you say that name, I'm going to give a huge shout out to, I believe it was either Ramon or you last week. I believe you said Jawan Jennings, and we was ahead of the big explosion week. I don't remember who it was, but somebody said Jawan Jennings last week.
I think I said Jawan Jennings. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, he killed it.
well, yeah, yeah, like you said, 11 catches, 175 receiving yards. I mean, that was a good performance. Obviously, he was a third receiver on the team, but with Kittle out and with Ayuk being rather invisible and Debo just being out, I mean, obviously he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be continue to be a thing. So, I mean, I definitely think if he's out there, if you need some wide receiver help, go grab him. How about Cole Kmet coming off a good performance, 8 catches. I think he had a touchdown as well. Cole Kmet is a talent, and I don't know why they just forgot about him on the team, but he could really be a safety blanket for Caleb. I think that it's no fluke. So if you're not familiar with his game, he's definitely a tight end. So when you're looking at Laporta banged up, when you're looking at Laporta, when you're looking at Kelsey now, I mean Kelsey, you might have to really take a look at him and see how he's going for. If you're looking for that tight end help, go ahead and scoop up Cole Kmet.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, even we have to start considering Fields, man. After a while, Fields is another good name. And then if I'm drawing a blank on the Chicago's quarterback, Caleb
Caleb
Williams.
Williams,
If
yep.
Caleb Williams, he has a good stretch coming up too. If you need quarterback help, if you're in a super flex league, you got two quarterbacks. He's got a very soft schedule coming up over the next 4 weeks. He's again a name to consider. I wouldn't go crazy if you're in a one quarterback league and you don't need a quarterback, but he's a guy at least if your quarterback, you're in a tour situation, and you just kind of need somebody to go and fill that spot. I feel like Caleb Williams and what he showed this past week that he can start putting it together, especially as his weapons get healthy.
Yeah.
I,
I
oh,
No, 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 no. I
go
certainly,
ahead.
no, I certainly agree with that one. I definitely think that he's somebody that you can target. I would say as well, another name that I would mention additionally, don't know if he's still out there because he kind of had a little bit of buzz coming in week 2 and things of that sort. But if Jalen Naylor is still out there, he's a guy that has been pretty steady. He's, maybe being a little bit touchdown reliant so far, but he's giving you pretty much double-digit points on a weekly basis at this point. If he's out there on a waiver wire, he's worth grabbing. Now his value may decrease as the season continues to wear on and you do eventually get Addison back and you get Hockenson back. But always too, it's good to grab a guy whenever you can plug and play. And also too, when you can take that asset and use it while the value is high to flip in a trade as well. So
I'll just take that asset so nobody else get him. um, I got this one for y'all. Y'all know how I feel about Darnell Mooney. He's coming out. He's coming off. I mean, he's had 15 targets over the last 2 games. He's becoming a real thing. We know, okay, Drake London, and we said Kyle Pitts. But then when we look at that third person that's emerging, maybe it's a good time to get Darnell Mooney. Also, Mike Williams for the Jets. Do not sleep on him. I hear all the Garrett Wilson talk and everything like that, but Mike Williams is getting a lot of targets in the red zone, and we know the talent that he can be. So it may be good to grab him before he gets popular and everybody else want him. I'm just saying.
And I'll add this last person on the Garrett Wilson situation. If anybody's watching those Jets games, the connection is just this off with him and Aaron Rodgers. I feel like, as we go through these 17, 18 games throughout the season, that they're going to find that connection. I would say right now is the time to buy him. And I wouldn't say necessarily low because nobody's crazy, but to get him at a reasonable price would be a great time to go out there and get somebody like a Garrett Wilson in hopes that, right now he's averaging around 12, 13 fantasy points in hopes that he can get that up to that 17 because they're missing these throws, these back shoulder throws, and all these big plays they're missing. Granted, he had a touchdown last game, but his yardage and his catches weren't there. So with the hope that they can get it together within the next few weeks, you can get him at a good price right now.
That's a good buy low candidate too.
Yeah.
But I think we did it again, fellas. We appreciate you for hanging around with us at this point. Like I said earlier, you can find the Opinionated Benchwarmers podcast on wherever you like to listen to your podcast, on your favorite podcast platform. We're also on YouTube. So make sure that you are subscribed to that channel and that you hit the bell so you get notified when we drop this great content. Until next time, we are out of here.
Later.